Separation retaliation, also known as separation instigated violence or retaliatory abuse, is calculated escalation of, we'll say, abuse that occurs after a victim attempts to leave, separate, or divorce their abusive partner. Interesting that it just dawned on me that Malaya herself gave it away. You know, in her interview, the only interview that she gave, she referenced and she paused before she referred to Daniel as her partner. And it seems so out of place because from Daniel, things over there were just so tickety-boo and just a loving environment. She was giving us the signal in a sense, but stopped herself short of referring to Daniel as an abuse or abusive partner, abusive partner. It makes a lot more sense now. She told us right there what happened. And it has everything to do with post-separation retaliation, separation instigated violence, retaliatory abuse. It's not a one-off argument. It's not losing control in the moment. It's a deliberate campaign by the abuser to, one, punish the victim for daring to reclaim freedom, regain dominance at any cost. Now here's the kicker when it comes to Jack and Lily Sullivan. 3, to destroy what the victim values most. Children, reputation, safety, life, all of the above. And the core trigger to this is the victim saying, I'm leaving. Daniel, his mindset, if I can't own you, I'll ruin you. Oh yeah, I pulled it up. So remember, she stopped when she referred and referenced over to Daniel and introduced him and represented him as her blank partner or her partner, as opposed to her husband, boyfriend, live-in lover, confidant, respected, loving, fiancé. No, it was a pause and partner. Just like I think I lost it now. I lost it now. Just like we were just looking at. Excuse me. Yeah, it's right there. ABUSIVE partner. My partner. There's something going on, and why wouldn't she be referring to it if this situation was a problem within the relationship? And it was. They've acknowledged it. Certainly not in public or on social media. Daniel's too busy on damage control. Because, listen, that guy is like one word away from being on the SX offender registry and being hemmed up for 50 years with no chance of parole. Among other things. And it all stems from this coercive relationship and his coercive behavior, which, again, just in its very nature, is a crime now. And Daniel, you're admitting to it. Or have admitted to it with little regard as to how that relates to the law.
Staying as hopeful as possible. I want them home. I want to hold them. And I want them home. What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep. And they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them. And they happen to just get out that sliding door and we can't hear it when it opens. And they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time. And the next thing we knew, it was quiet. And we get up and I tell him, my partner, Daniel, I tell him, "Do you hear the kids?" And he said,
Yeah, my abusive partner, Daniel, is what she was going to say.
says no. And we get up instantly. We're looking outside, we're looking everywhere, yelling for them, and I instantly just call 911. I just had the instinct I needed to call. They're both really go-lucky children. They're so sweet. They talk to anyone. They'll talk your ear off. They will speak to anyone in a store. Everyone. They're just extremely sweet kids. I appreciate the huge search effort going on right now. But we've been pushing for an Amber Alert, which hasn't been issued. Not just that they could possibly be abducted, which it is a possibility that they could have been, but just an alert to let everyone know that they are missing. We had people text me saying that they weren't aware someone else let them.
So, no focus on the fact that you should keep an eye on your children if that was really the case, but it's somehow put on to everybody else, so everybody else needs to be notified of your problem? No. You wish that there's an Amber Alert, but you didn't qualify for it. It didn't qualify. There's an answer to all of these little scenarios that you're presenting in front of the camera within your coercive relationship, but you would know it by another name at this point in time because you're brainwashed and conditioned into thinking that that is love. It's not love.
Them know that they were missing, and it would just be nice if everyone could be alerted. We thought maybe that we found tracks, but it's still uncertain. It's been raining and they're probably soaking wet, but with the sun today, I'm hopeful that they are feeling warm. We're all filled with pain and sorrow because we just want them found. We want them home. Everyone loves them. They are definitely verbal, and they do have possible autism, but it's not extreme
No, they
autism.
don't.
It's just they have issues with
They have issues with school. It's because they're probably severely neglected by part of you and Daniel in the old House of Horrors on Garlock Road. They're not autistic. How dare you represent these two beautiful children like that and disrespect all of those children that legitimately do and have a need.
school, and they don't catch up with the other kids. I just want to remain hopeful. Sweet kids. I appreciate the huge search effort going on right now, but we've been pushing for make sure that we're staying as hopeful as possible. I want them home. I want to hold them, and I want them home. What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep, and they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them, and they happened to just get out that sliding door.
So already she's straight up lied to you. See what she's done there? Well, obviously you're not the type of parents to be out there watching your kids if you were sitting there in bed while they were doing the exact opposite thing that you said that you were the type of person to do. Immediate contradiction within this statement. You could have prevented this, Malaya. How and why did you come and become so complacent there?
and we can't hear it when it opens. And they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time. And the next thing we knew, it was quiet, and we get up and I tell him, my partner, Daniel.
Your partner, Daniel. So we covered post-separation retaliation, also known as separation-instigated violence and retaliatory abuse. Talked about how it was calculated escalation. It's not a one-off argument, and it's not losing control in the moment. It's a deliberate campaign by the abuser to punish the victim for daring to reclaim freedom, regain dominance at any cost, and destroy the victim and what the victim values most: their children, reputation, safety, life. The core trigger, of course, is I'm leaving. And the abuser's mindset: if I can own you, I'll ruin you. Why it happens, the abuser's psychology. Now, the trigger is a loss of control, narcissistic rage, entitlement, fear of exposure, revenge. So, we know Daniel is a huge narcissist in this sense. We've experienced him. That would have definitely sent him into a bit of a rage. Leaving is seen as betrayal and public humiliation to Daniel, potentially. Now that Meadows in the picture, and this weird reference and this really ambiguous, unidentifiable role within, and especially his and her role, and they're a bit misconstrued in that sense, the way he refers to what would otherwise be seen or should be a healthy relationship, wants to be known as. No. This is a toxic relationship, stinking, reeking, demonstrating again and again of one that's criminal in nature by Daniel Martell towards Malaya. And that, of course, is coercive control. So with that narcissistic rage comes the entitlement. Daniel's belief that you and the kids are his property. There's a fear of exposure that comes along with it as you go through. There's the ABUSE, the fraud, secrets, and being afraid of the secrets that will come out in court or with the police. So common retaliation tactics. Think about number 6 here, the digital disinformation about Daniel being on YouTube and TikTok lives about how she abandoned him in this circumstance. That's a huge red flag. Huge red flag. So common retaliation tactics, psychological warfare. Some examples are stalking, a smear campaign, fake social media, suicide threats. Legal abuse, false police reports, check. Custody sabotage. Remember, he was really pushing that she took off and she's screwed up all of this, her custody with Meadow. Turned out to be wrong. Misguiding. So legal abuse, false police reports, custody sabotage, frivolous lawsuits. There's economic sabotage, like draining bank accounts. What about Temu accounts? Trying to refund money back onto his account from items around the house for substances. That's a tweaker move. She mentioned that. I've got that screenshot. Hiding assets or benefit fraud. Check. There's economic sabotage. It's part of, was it part of the retaliation? Part of the control he had in this relationship? 5, physical violence. There's the assault, the acid attack, the unaliving. And right, we just talked about digital disinformation, the YouTube and TikTok lives Daniel's always all over. That's really what he's going on about on a campaign of disinformation. Speaking about gaslighting, remember these messages early on in the case from Daniel? Oh, she will go as long as she can, but will crack after her mental health is put to the test with exams. Kind of like you do in the relationship. You know Malaya like that, and you're expressing it that way as though that you've been there before with her. She also said the kids are in the woods. Stupid me believed that, and I searched and searched. Look at what he's doing there. He's just gaslighting her, making these and putting them out in the public realm as a form of gaslighting and controlling Malaya in that sense, an attempt to in that. She can't, then the kids would be moved to a different location. There's Daniel again, a little bit of leakage. Daniel knows where those children are and where he's disposed of them. We can never forget this. This was right on the list of components, the 12 or 14 components of a coercive relationship in that sense. She doesn't have the mental foresight to understand complex nature of what she was about to do. 2 missing kids at the same time, 1 in a million. 1 in a million what? What? Cite your information there, Daniel. I consider that leakage down in the bottom corner there. This I took care of Lily and Jack, and she only cared for Meadow. Interesting statement about no one good thing. She went on and on about trauma for the first year over and over. I had to say to her, stop it. Daniel, she's bringing up trauma because of the abusive nature of the relationship and what was occurring in that sense. Not just her PTSD, but your behavior in the moment. And of course, a quick reference with the accumulated text messages, I believe, between Belinda and Malaya Brooks. It's the mention of my main focus right now is to protect Meadow and find my kids. Protect Meadow, taking priority there in the sentence, of course. And the mention, let Daniel say whatever he wants. I can't say anything to anyone anymore. Indicators of coercion. Now, how this leads to false missing children reports is 1, victim tries to leave. Malaya in this circumstance. Daniel fears losing custody and / of his finances. They're tied, one and the same. All kinds of child support. 2, the children become weapons. If I unalive them, she loses everything. 3, harm actually occurs. The unaliving or the staged, quote, in parentheses, accidental overdose for those of you who are that way of thinking. Or 4, false RCMP report. Sounds like they wandered off. She took them and vanished. It buys 48 to 72 hours to hide the bodies in that sense, if they didn't already take care of that before the RCMP call. 5, the disinformation campaign. Family and proxies spread lies online. Derpwood and their happy clan. It fits in with their family cult, right? It's the same thing within family cults, organizational cults, religious sects, some of them. Disinformation campaign, the abuser, Daniel, plays the grieving victim. And of course he does. This is what he's been taking center stage for. I want to talk about the legal consequences in Canada, namely Nova Scotia. Interestingly enough, for the planned unaliving, subsection 231, first degree, the penalty for that is life, 25 years with no parole. Child homicide, subsection 232, is life if it's aggravated. The false report, subsection 140, public mischief, That's 5 years. There's the obstruction, which is subsection 139 of the criminal code. Penalty is 10 years. There's the conspiracy to cover up. Criminal code subsection 465. Penalty is 7 to 14 years. In hiding the bodies, criminal code subsection 23, being an accessory, comes with the penalty of life in prison. Now there's aggravating factors, subsection 718.2. Post-separation motive, aggravating factor. Child victims, aggravating factor. Coercive control pattern, aggravating factor. The sentences can double. We'll sentence you to the 300 years in prison. Now, name some real cases when you talk about patterns. That's Chris Watts, of course, the Port-au-Peak shooter in Nova Scotia, the dude who unalived 22 people. And the Sullivan case, of course, speculated at this point in time. In those particular screenshots, of course, this is our last video. We took a look at the core patterns from the Dutton and Goodman framework. Intimidation, isolation, micro-regulation, surveillance, degradation, which is just what we witnessed in that screenshot. The economic abuse and the emotional manipulation. The degradation of Malaya Brooks Murray as part of his disinformation campaign online. Easy for me to say. Degradation. She doesn't have the mental foresight to understand the complex nature of what she was about to do. Well, what is this it you're referring to there, Danny boy? 2 missing kids at the same time. 1 in a million. 1 in a million what? 2 kids at the same time. Yeah, 1 in a million. What does that mean? Distancing. So whether it was with Daniel's ex, with Malaya, or even some examples that we saw with some of the love letters from Daniel and Taylor in his most recent escapade, his love affair. The cycle of coercive control. Now, think about this cycle of coercive control in relation to what we've witnessed Daniel say. Think about number 5, the reset. The I'll change, the cycle repeats. Well, let's go through the 5 steps. The honeymoon, the tension, the explosion, the guilt withdrawal, and then the reset. Honeymoon is over-the-top affection. Oh, you're my soulmate, baby. Oh, baby, you're so wonderful. Love bombing. It's the honeymoon phase. Then comes the tension. Implementation of small rules in the relationship. Criticism, maybe. Subtly or otherwise. Why didn't you ask me, girl? Why didn't you ask me before doing that? Oh, it's a form of manipulation, right? And the explosion, the threats, the humiliation, and the isolation which was occurring within the trailer in the confines of Garlock Road. Then comes the guilt and withdrawal, the silent treatment, victim blaming. Look at all the blaming of Malaya we've witnessed for things in the relationship just from Jamie and Daniel. It's just the way they treat things around there. Then comes the reset, of course, the gifts, the tears, the I'll change, the promises that he'll be the Daniel he was when you first met him, Malaya. It's the cycle repeating itself, and it gets worse each time. The victims of this may experience the term walking on eggshells, I'm going crazy, or it's my fault. It's intentional. Looking at how these patterns escalate over time, the stage, early, middle, late, post-separation. Early, within the first 6 months, subtly, and subtle Love bombing, like we were talking about. Micro regulations, because he just cares. The middle stage of the pattern escalation, around the 6 to 24 month mark, there's obvious signs. Isolation, surveillance. You don't need friends or your family monitoring your Google location, your tracking Malaya. And late into this 2 years, this 2-year mark, it became rather extreme as of recent. There were threats towards the children, economic sabotage, then the false report. Now, post-separation, after Daniel knew it was over, and he began being referred to as Malaya's partner, his pause partner, this is when it becomes deadly. The retaliation occurred. And the extreme and deadly in this and Jack and Lily's situation happened right there. Right around the economic sabotage. Think about April 30th and all the letters that they were getting because of the fraud that Daniel, the sabotage that Daniel went through with. A post-separation, retaliation, harm, unaliving, the cover-up comes in. WHO statistics state that 30% of partner unalivings follow coercive control patterns, by the way. Stats Canada states that 40% of all child homicides are tied to these cycles. Now, interestingly enough, there's two things occurring when it comes to coercive control and children in the weaponization of Jack and Lily in that sense, and even Meadow. And his old kids, he's weaponized them. The tactic would be the harm, the unaliving, or the accident to punish the victim. The false report and the statements that Malaya is the one who abducted them to the RCMP while they search while they have the bodies hidden. These are tactics. The manipulation, tell mommy you hate her new friend, or straight up threats, leave and the kids disappear. Here's comes up some more echoes, some of the red flags where you can look for to see if you're in this particular pattern. Malaya, do you need permission to see friends, spend money, wear certain clothes? Daniel tracks your location for safety and because you trust one another. You apologize for things that you didn't do. You hide things from them out of fear. Daniel says that you're overreacting when you're terrified. Boy, he's done that several times, spoke on your behalf in that sense. So just to update this bill, I'm not sure if this amendment actually has gone through yet or if it's just sitting in front of legislature. This section 264.1 talks about how it's a proposed bill rather than a standalone crime. So I got screwed up, or we might have gotten screwed up over it maybe being already a standalone crime. It was presented way back in 2020. I'm still reading where it stands right now. And it's just all about it being a standalone crime as opposed they can still apply it in just in a different sense according to the law. So according to this, it's no standalone crime yet. Coercive control is not explicitly criminalized, just to make that clear. In the criminal code, but the behaviors are prosecutable under existing sections. Subsection 264 for criminal harassment up to 10 years. Subsection 380 for fraud and economic abuse. And here we're seeing an example of why they need to pass this bill if it isn't already passed, because it can power earlier interventions, potentially preventing escalations like post-separation retaliation or false reports in cases involving children, like we have with Jack and Lily. Well, well. So it seems that it's not a standalone criminal act in that sense yet. It's sitting in front of this, legislature. Bill C-332 from 2023, which is ongoing, is a successor bill with similar provisions new to the Addendum 264.01 for intimate partners. It passed the House of Commons in June 2024 and is in the Senate. If enacted, it's expected 2026 with training delay. Next year, it would effectively implement C-247's intent. So it's expected to pass. Maybe that's what we're waiting on. Expect arrests in 2026 because this bill, C-332, is set to pass. Maybe that's what's going to crack this case when it comes to justice for Jack and Lily. So the bill proposes amendments primarily to Section 264 of the Criminal Code of Criminal Harassment, adding a new Section 264.01 to explicitly criminalize coercive control. Here's a core text from the bill as amended and adopted by the House. So it's been adopted already, passed the House. There's a certain process in Canada. Everyone commits an offense who, in relation to their intimate partner, engages in a pattern of conduct with the intent to coerce or intimidate them or to otherwise control or regulate their day-to-day activities that they know or ought to know could reasonably be expected to cause that person to fear for their safety or the safety of a person known to them, or to suffer a serious effect on their emotional, mental, or physical health. 2. For the purpose of subsection 1, a pattern of conduct includes, but is not limited to, one or more of the following: intimidation or threats, humiliation, degradation or exploitation, isolation from family, friends, or support networks, regulation or control of resources or daily activities, deprivation of access to resources or services, or for any other conduct that has a serious effect on the person. They're talking about this bill being bipartisan, so everybody's in agreement about it, including Liberals, Conservatives, and the Bloc Québécois. So it's just a matter of time here. So the first reading, November 24th, 2022, it was introduced and debated briefly. Second reading, March 22nd, 2023, it passed and referred to the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights. Debate highlighted its role in addressing invisible violence. Went to the committee reading, or committee stage, September 2023 to March 2024. Heard from survivors, experts in provinces. Government amendments adopted March 18th, 2024 to refine definitions, example based on Scotland's model, and ensure safeguards against misuse. Report 22 tabled. It's on to the report stage and third reading, June 2024, unanimously adopted by the House of Commons on June 12th, 2024. Now it's at the Senate stage, and it's just sitting there, date not reached, sent to the Senate, but session ended January 6th, 2025, without debate. So session has ended. The current status is not passed yet. The bill expired with the 44th Parliament ending in January 2025. No legal effect and is considered historical. In the 45th Parliament, no identical bill reintroduced yet, but momentum is strong. The government under Justice Minister has signaled intent to prioritize coercive control criminalization, possibly via a government bill. Recent Senate speeches urged revival, calling it a matter of justice for breaking cycles of violence. So what's going on with this stupid bill? Man, this thing passes Daniels up shit creek. So spinning back, how coercive control and intimate partner violence is prosecutable today. While not standalone, coercive behaviors are chargeable under existing criminal code provisions. If they form pattern causing harm, prosecutors, example Public Prosecution Service of Canada, must prove intent and impact, example fear or health effects. Evidence includes texts, witness statements, financial records, and medical reports. So the behavior referenced with coercive control, like threats, intimidation, stalking, surveillance, isolation, regulation, economic abuse, sexual coercion, pattern of abuse, each have relevant criminal code sections. There's uttering threats, criminal harassment or assault, fraud or theft, SA, aggravating factors in sentencing with the pattern of abuse. So really what it has, its current status when it comes to coercive control, its current legal status on a federal level, it has recognition but no standalone crime. Now, however, and it applies here with Daniel to his children and Meadow, coercive control is explicitly acknowledged in the Divorce Act, amended in 2021, where courts must consider it in custody, parenting, and contact decisions to prioritize child safety. Subsection 16 of the Divorce Act. This helps victims in family law but doesn't carry criminal penalties. The criminal code does not yet include a specific offense for the coercive control. Research from the Office of Federal Ombudsman for Victims of Crime 2020 highlights this as a gap that hides non-physical IPV from the justice system. So rolling back a little bit, at some point during this process over the past few months of Malaya threatening and wanting to leave and Daniel trying to prevent this and them being in this revolving cycle of coercive control in this relationship, Daniel weaponized the children against Malaya. And in his induced mind thought that, or maybe his ignorance just naturally progressed him to that point. Hit me up in the comments section below. Let me know what you think, folks. Peace.